Okay, so welcome back to part 5 of our week 5 MN333 Global International Business Intelligence module. So now we're going to focus on chapter 7. So what we're interested in is social platforms. So what we've done today is we've talked a little bit about the high-level strategies of why we bring our business intelligence into a single competency center. We've talked about the actual process by which we acquire and analyze the data. And then we're going to talk about some of the platforms that we're going to look at. So we're thinking, this is how we analyze the data. This is where, we've talked about the types of data. Now we're going to talk about the platforms they're on. So anyone who did the MN329 social media module would be very familiar with this. We talked the different platforms we have on social media. So we've got community, things like Facebook. We've got publishing, YouTube, blogs, whatever. We've got social commerce, so our F-commerce, our CRM services, online retailing, and we've got social entertainments, things like games and music and art. So there we see the different examples of them. So, we've got things like blogging communities. So, anyone who's done a blog as part of the community. We've got crowdsourced content. So things like the open source community where we bring information together. But also, if we're actually interested in something like today, if we want to get a picture of what the weather is like out there, we've got crowdsourced content. We've got people in every village, in Ireland tweeting as to what it's like. So we can actually aggregate that information and get the big picture of what the weather's like. With discussion forums, so people are talking about the quality of service. We've got gaming communities, so people who are playing these online games, are actually talking about it. They're exchanging information. They're like working out how to unlock resources. So they're working together. We've got live streaming, so we've got kind of video cameras. We've got events, people at debates or concerts, football matches. They're actually streaming information. Microblogging, so that's just Twitter, things like that, where we've got really short posts. We've got sharing networks, special interest platforms, things like Pinterest, where we've got people that are communicating on where they will share the interest. We've got like social platforms like Facebook, and we've got these ratings and review sites like TripAdvisor and things like that. So what we're actually interested in is how do we actually, create some internal behaviors in the organization? So how can we actually use this to get the organization to grow effectively? So what blogging is, it's a page that allows us to create content that's presented in chronological order, and so often gives the readers tools to discuss the comments. So, the really best blogs are the ones that, present some information, and then there's a discussion underneath where people critique what's being said, comment on it, whatever, and engage with it. And the really good bloggers will come back and they'll actually debate with the serious comments. They'll also have enough sense to just ignore the trolls. So you've got an awful lot of people online who are just acting the idiot, and they're best ignored. So the blogging community gives customizable features and interfaces. So you can have the comments features, you can have the ability for people to upload video, do different things. We have very wide-ranging topics, but it might be really interesting to companies, who are actually interested in what people are talking about. So what you're really interested in is to actually identify the blogs and the readers who access those blogs that align with the topics that are important to the business. So again, if you're Starbucks, if there's people talking about coffee, you want to know about it. And the authors of the blogs can be really important influencers. They'll often either give you unvarnished insights into how people are using your product. So if you've got a power IT user who's commenting on Excel, and they're identifying bugs, they're describing how people use it, people are asking them queries, so it forms actually part of the support strategy for the organization. So there's 75 million blogs on WordPress. To my credit or to my shame, I'm responsible for several hundred of them by getting students to actually do them. But it's 400 million people looking at 4.3 billion pages each month. So it's a huge amount of data. 36 million posts per month, 63 million comments. So that's kind of like 2 comments for every blog post. And I think to remember is like 44% of these are in languages other than English. So that's really fascinating. So what then we're interested in is, things like, there's a premise behind this is that, a load of people with partial access to information can actually come together and make really, really good decisions. So James Suraki wrote this book about the wisdom of the crowds, And that was kind of based on an anecdote where 800 people at a fair in England had to guess the weight of an ox. So basically the median guess was true, within 1%. So when we got the actual median performance and statistical analysis of all the guesses, the crowd were actually able to guess the weight of the ox within 1%. It's incredible. So basically what you have is that the crowd's individual judgments create a probability distribution, and the median of that, so it's kind of halfway between the top and the bottom, tends to be near the true value of the quantity estimated. So examples in the book highlight how we can actually leverage the insight of a group that can actually get a much better idea. So the idea is that if we talk to a lot of people who mayn't necessarily be experts in the area, we still can get a very good decision. So this is an example I've carried out in classes before, where I've asked everybody to guess the height of the spire. Now nobody knows offhand how high the spire is unless they've looked it up before. What we actually discovered when we got 60 people to guess, we got the height of the spire within 2 or 3%. So other examples of how people use this wisdom of the crowds, things like Wikipedia, where we get lots and lots of people to work together to create an encyclopedia that is as accurate as Encyclopedia Britannica ever was. Other kind of stuff, we've got things like Reddit, and we've got Open Innovation, where we actually get organizations to get people to contribute information. So discussion forums were the earliest social media platforms. So early adopters will remember things like special interest groups. See things like NN news networks, with alt.pets.cats, where people would actually go on special interest and talk about cats. So they were often technical topics because the early adopters of the internet were technical people generally, but then they kind of started to cover just about anything that got an audience. So they're really valuable from a social analytic standpoint, as they're highly focused content, but they are unstructured. But it's really useful to actually get what the hot topics in a particular area are, what brand awareness are. So, if you think discussion forums, so politics.ie was popular for a while. It's kind of been taken over by trolls at this stage. Boards.ie was, one of the first in Ireland discussion boards. It was incredibly popular. Mumsnet is hugely influential, especially in the UK. So you've got a whole scatter of parents online asking questions about, my child doesn't have teeth, my child has teeth, my child isn't walking at 12 months, what's wrong? A whole lot of information there, and this is hugely influential. So that the former British Prime Minister David Cameron was obsessed with Mumsnet because he identified young mothers as a key demographic that he wanted to appeal to. So they would actually spend huge amounts of time trawling the information that was on this to identify what the topics were that were important for people with young families. So, gaming communities are hugely fast growing. So traditionally gamers were, young adolescent males, whereas now there's, all sorts of people are playing games, male, female, younger and older. But again, this is a targeted service for people who are looking for online entertainment. If we're either playing the game or talking about the game, we're producing huge amounts of behaviour and sentiment data. So we'll find out what games do people enjoy, why do they enjoy, how do they align with bricks and mortar businesses. So if we've got somebody playing fantasy football, what teams what sponsorship, what ads are we providing them. So they're also, these are social games, they're friend-based. So people are actually playing with people they know in the real world. So we're developing social graph data, giving more valuable data to organizations. So, just an example, Photocracy, World of War, different kind of gaming communities. So, so what? So the University of Washington Center for Game Science collaborated with the biochemistry department and created a game called Fold It. So it was an online puzzle, but what actually was behind it, what was behind the game was about protein folding. So they used a game interface that allowed people to play and compete to figure out the most effective way to fold a protein that fitted a researcher's criteria. So 240,000, 250,000 people registered for the game, and they were competing against each other. And they found the solution within 10 days. It would have taken months of computer analysis. And it was a major breakthrough in AIDS research. Sorry, it wouldn't take months. It would have taken 15 years with supercomputers to do it. But, by getting these 240,000 people to try different strategies, they were able to do it a lot faster. Another example, Pain squad. Patients have to keep a pain journal to see what's actually working in their treatment. But sick children are too tired to keep a journal, and it's not effective. So what they do is they use role-playing cop game with missions and rewards and encouragement videos. So this actually gets the children to record the information they need in a fun way. So they can use kind of social games to get people to interact with each other, get other people to motivate them, and we get the information that helps with their stuff. The doctors get the data they need, which helps with research and with care. And the children have fun. And they're able to, they have a purpose, they have enjoyment, so their treatment becomes fun and it's therefore much more effective. So they're not victims anymore, but they're detectives and they're helping other people. They're helping people and that what they're going through has a purpose and they're aware of that. So another thing we're interested in is live streaming. So there's a huge amount of, this constant streaming of information to large groups and consumers. So it covers everything from how to quilt, leading technological programming. So it's consumed live, but it's also available for people to watch later. So microblogging is something like a tweet, short form social content. This is kind of different. So you've got a follow function. It's much easier to consume. But a lot of times now what we see is if we actually follow 300 or 400 people on Twitter, we can't actually make any sense of what's coming. So we end up just searching on tags or whatever. So we create our own taxonomies. Twitter creates its own taxonomies around what hashtags are trending. So small pieces of digital content could be pictures, short videos, links, or text. So everybody is doing it in reality. There's hundreds of millions of people on Twitter. There's also a huge number of bots sent in on the software devices that are masquerading as people posting on it. So we post, we create an account, we post our microblog, and then other people can read it. Because there's so many people contributing, it's of value. The problem is, lots of people see it as a waste of time. A huge number of people who aren't actually engaged in Twitter see Twitter as a complete waste. They see it as self-indulgent, virtue signaling, people kind of masquerading or creating this false avatar of their life. So not everybody takes it terribly seriously. So our sharing networks are things like, YouTube and Flickr, where we share videos. So we can actually share content. So special interest platforms, highly focused on a specific topic instead of a wide area of interest. So they're often very similar, but just focused on a different topic. So think of that like a virtual network where we're actually interested in a single topic that people are talking about. So then we have social platforms, the social media ones like Facebook and LinkedIn. So we've got a huge amount of huge numbers of audience, and there's a massive amounts of data that's valuable. So huge amounts of the interactivity concentrated in small places. So they have these APIs we talked about last week, application programming interfaces, that allow other software to collect that data and make sense of it. So then ratings and reviews, fairly obvious. You have things like TripAdvisor, different sites that allow us to make comments about sentiment as to how we feel about brands or services worldwide. So there's huge numbers of these, anything from restaurants, hotels, retail, rate my teacher, please don't, and all sorts of different things. So this allows us to actually segment the community so professionals can identify interests that different people are actually interested in. Okay, so that wraps up the whistle-top tour through the social platforms, the type of data that's available on them. So we now, we've high-level strategies for accessing data. We know what sort of data we're interested in. Now we've talked about the platform, so we know where it is. So when we're actually interested in developing our product for our assignment, we have a strategy to access the data. We know where that data might be and what types of data are there. So now the question is, what does the data actually tell us? Is there a need for a product or a service that isn't being met at the moment that you can identify from looking at the data? So I hope you enjoyed or at least tolerated the lectures online. I'm sorry I had to cancel the classes, but the weather is too serious for people to travel. If you have any questions about the content, post a topic on Moodle, drop me an email, or bring it up in class next week. Thanks very much for your time. I hope you stay safe and stay warm in the cold weather. Bye.